guys, what is up? Welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be doing my March wrap up. This is where I'm just going to go over all the books that I read in March and give you guys a little review on them. Tell you how many stars I rated, what I recommend, what I not. So let's go ahead and get started. If you're not subscribed, feel free to do that. If you want to see more content from me, I do monthly TBRs, which are my favorite videos to film and watch. I've never done a reading vlog, but maybe I have a vacation coming up where I might do that. I don't know. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started with my review. The first book that I finished in the month of March was Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands by Heather Fawcett. This is the second book in the Emily Wilde trilogy, and I do have the third, haven't picked it up yet, but I really thought this was quite good. I think I rated it 4 stars. Just like a cozy, fun fantasy, perfect for like the rainy season, which we're kind of in right now. It's very gloomy outside right now. But yeah, so we read that. I thought it was good. It was 4 stars for me. I am like intrigued to see what happens next. Basically, it's about a scholar at Oxford in an alternate reality kind of Regency era. It's like 1910, around that time when this takes place. And it's a like alternate universe where fairies exist and we know about them, and there's different types and there's, you know, lots of stuff. And it's a little bit of like a romance with her rival scholar, I guess I would say. I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, so it's this book I thought was pretty good. The second one is lots of adventure and it's like just cozy fantasy. Totally would recommend if you like things like The Cruel Prince, or what is that other book I just read recently that I felt like was really cozy? Oh, like Tress of the Emerald Sea. Very like cozy vibes, like not super high stakes, but like still fun and like, okay, like, you know, things will happen. Okay, so that was the first book that I read. I liked it quite a bit. Which one did I finish next? That's a great question. I feel like the one that I finished next maybe was Six of Crows. I can't really remember. We're maybe not doing this in the right order, but that's okay. This is the first book in a duology, the Six of Crows duology by Leigh Bardugo. It's in the same world as Shadow and Bone. I read Shadow and Bone. I've read it like 3 times probably. Before I like really was like into reading a whole bunch of new books, I would read the same ones over and over again. So Shadow and Bone. I read Assassin's Blade like 4 times. So yeah. I liked this. I really like Shadow and Bone. I know people like are not totally into it. It's more like cozy fantasy, which I really liked it. This is a little bit more high stakesy, I guess. It's like a heist. Most people know this book. It's very, very popular online. I liked it, but I wasn't like in love with it. And I was scared to read it because I was afraid I wouldn't love it as much as everyone else does, and I don't think I do. But it's a 4-star read for me. I'll definitely read Crooked Kingdom because it does leave off on like a cliffhanger that I'm like, all right, I do care about that. And it's good because I've already seen the show, so I don't have to picture what people look like. But it's completely different from the show. Like, this is just a completely different plot line. So I liked it. 4 stars. Not like, you know, the craziest book I've ever read. I know people like die for this book, but I thought it was okay. I thought it was good. It was good, but it wasn't anything I was like, yeah, like, oh, you have to read this kind of thing. Next book that I think I finished was A Man Called Ova. This is by Fredrik Backman. This was my book club book for the month. And this was cute. It was sweet. I think I rated this 4.5 stars. I really liked it. It was a little sad, but it was also like heartwarming and hopeful, and it wasn't too long, which I always appreciate. There's a quote in here that I want to read. I read this in my journal, my reading journal video as well, but I feel like this is such a good quote, and I feel like a lot of people can relate to this. So, loving someone is like moving into a house, Sonia used to say. At first you fall in love with all the new things, amazed every morning that all this belongs to you, as if fearing that someone would suddenly come rushing in through the door to explain that a terrible mistake had been made and you weren't actually supposed to live in a wonderful place like this. Then over the years, the walls become weathered, the wood splinters here and there, and you start to love the house not so much because of all its perfection, but rather its imperfections. You get to know all the nooks and crannies, how to avoid getting the key caught in the lock when it's cold outside, which of the floorboards flex slightly when one steps on them, or exactly how to open the wardrobe doors without their creaking. These are the little things that make it your home. Like, it's very similar. Love is like that. So I just thought that was a really nice quote, and Fredrik Backman is a good writer. Now, that quote is also a really good example of maybe going on a bit too much to make the point. Like, this is basically about a grumpy old man, but there were lots of scenes where he was just grumpy. And it was like, okay, we know he's grumpy. So that's like kind of why I knocked it down a little bit. But otherwise, really great book. Like, it was short, but I'm like, this could have been a little shorter, you know? So loved it. Next was my first 5-star read of the month, which was The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I loved this book. It is, here's how I feel about romances. Either they're like, meh, not so good, or, you know, whatever, or I'm in love with them. The one I just started, I've read like 50 pages of it. I'm really liking it. So I feel like it's probably going to be a 5-star read too, but this is A 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. It is about a woman whose aunt dies and she inherits her apartment, and there's like a magical realism thing in this book where you can travel back 7 years or travel forward 7 years, and so her apartment brings her back 7 years to when someone else was living there, and like a romance ensues. So really good. I enjoyed it a lot. I wasn't sure how it was going to work out. I'm actually really disappointed in myself for not reading this sooner, because I really okay, I think I left off talking about The 7-Year Slip. Not entirely sure if I finished what I was saying. My storage was full. I had to fix that, but 5 stars. I loved it. I'm sad I didn't pick it up quicker than I did. So the next book that I finished in the month of March was Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. This is a mystery thriller, and I loved it. I read this in less than 24 hours. If there's like this is such a good book, you guys. And maybe it's like I was in the mood for it, but it's a feeling. I don't know. I loved it. It also has like a mixed media type thing where you're kind of reading like podcast interviews as well. So what this book is about a girl who basically like is accused of killing her best friend 5 years ago, but they can't prove that she did it, and she has no memory of the night. So she doesn't know if she did it or not. She moves to LA, and, you know, life is fine. But then a podcaster picks up her case, and her name is out there now in LA, and her life is basically ruined, and she ends up having to go back to home, and whatever, a whole thing ensues, and she ends up like going on the podcast and explaining her side of the story and all of that. And you find out like what actually happened. And I just thought this was really, really good. It was fast paced. If you want a quick read, I think this is a great one. I literally probably read it in like less than 4 hours, but it did take me 24 hours to like actually have the time to read for 4 hours. But yeah, I read it very quickly. That is what happens when I really like a book. I read this one also within like 3 days or something. So this was also my challenge book. I don't know if I said that, but each month I read the book that was the most popular, published from 1 year ago. So in March 2024, this was the most popular book that was published on a list on Goodreads, like added to most shelves. And so that's why I read it, and I loved it. I really am happy that I read it. Now, when I went to check the April book to say what it was and make sure I knew what it was, I saw that March had changed. It was this book, but then it switched to a different book, which I actually already owned. So I decided to just read that too. It wasn't on my TBR, but I decided to read it. It is James by Percival Everett. This is a retelling of Huckleberry Finn from Jim's perspective, which is pretty important to read. And it was also a quick read, pretty fast paced. It wasn't quite as like fast paced as the other one, because I actually did not remember the story, what happened or anything. And I don't know if it's even true to Huckleberry Finn's or if they changed things or not, but I'm glad I read it. It's definitely something that is outside of my comfort zone. It's more of like I think it's literary fiction, but it's African-American literary fiction. So I don't know if there's a difference, but yeah, it just is about a group of people I don't have a lot of familiarity with. So I really enjoyed watching. It's about slavery and about, you know, the South during that time. So, and the North during that time. So I really liked it. I gave it 4.5 stars. I think that it's definitely worth reading. I believe it may have been the #1 book Goodreads, like the Goodreads #1 book from last year. So I'm glad I picked it up. I'm glad I read it. It was already on my 25 and 25 to read, so I would have read it eventually anyway, but I'm glad I got to it pretty quickly. And then the last book that I read was One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. I read this on Kindle Unlimited. It's a book that I've been on my radar for so long, and it finally got picked from my TBR game. So very happy to have read it. I rated it 3.5 stars, which is kind of surprising because I really like a dark gothic fantasy, and that's exactly what this was. But there were a few inconsistencies that I didn't really like, and like the character, the main character, her personality was a little bit different than I was expecting. I'm struggling with like a rating on that and like how I think about her character, because yeah, it's good that she's not like the typical heroine, but she also like is 1 minute like picking flowers and thinking about how pretty they'll look in her hair, and then she's like being brave and like fighting people. Those personality, I guess, I mean, people can have different faceted personalities. I just found it a little inconsistent. Like, why is she like all, you know, boop-a-doo, boop-a-doo, and then it's like, oh, I have to fight. You know, it doesn't really, I don't know. If you're like in a situation where you're gonna have to fight, you should, like picking flowers just doesn't make sense to me, but maybe that's just because I'm also not used to a heroine who would also enjoy that. Mostly it's like, I fight and that's what I do and I like fancy things, you know, like I'm really going Selena Sardathian here and Aelin Galathynius, but yeah, I don't know. There was just like something a little bit off about it, and the relationship, the romance I liked, but yeah, anyway, that's how I felt about it. I will read the next one because I've heard that people like that one a lot better. The fantasy part was great. It was just the character was a little bit off for me. Like the setting was great. Maybe I should rate it more like 4 stars, but I don't know. On my rating system, it ended up being 3.5. But anyway, I did enjoy that book. So I read One Dark Window, James by Percival Everett, Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera, 5 stars. The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, also 5 stars. A Man Called Ova, 6 of Crows, and Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia. Nope, a Map of the Other Lands. She's making like a map in this one and an encyclopedia in the first one. And the next one I think is Compendium of Lost Tales. So she's like a scholar, so it makes sense. But those are the books that I read in the month of March. What did you read? What did you like? What did you not like? What should I not read? Tell me in the comments below, and I will see you guys in my next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.